Are you prepared for time off? Hi, everybody. Welcome to the KC CHIROpulse podcast brought to you by CATS Consultants, helping doctors keep their pulse on success. I'm Dr. Michael Perusich, your host for today's podcast, and I'm joined by my co-host, Marisa Mateja, the world famous CA expert.
You're funny.
No, it's true. It's true.
Oh, thanks.
Are we prepared for time off? Are we ever prepared?
Well, I hope so. We should be.
We should be.
We should be. That's one of those areas that I feel like a lot of times that we just kind of overlook just a little bit. We tend to just think we're just going to be off and we're going to mark those days and that's all we have to do. And there's so much more to it.
There's so much more to it. Here's what I see happening a lot. I see doctors come in on a Thursday afternoon. They've had just a blasting couple of weeks. They're tired and they walk up to the front desk and say, you know what? I'm going to take Friday, Monday, and Tuesday off and just take a long weekend. And they just drop it. Boom.
Yeah.
I'm just taking those days off. Kind of have to plan ahead a little bit because now you got to move patients. You've got to, upset patient schedules. And there's really a right way and a wrong way. And it starts with planning.
It does. And one of the biggest areas, and I know our clients hear me say this, one of the biggest areas that you can control is your calendar. And so you have to be in charge of it. You have to lead your patients and you have to be able to know when you're going to be in the office and out of the office almost, 2 or 3 months ahead of time, a lot of times, so that you can truly plan. And that's for the practice that's not scheduling one visit at a time. We've got to be scheduled out and we've got to know what's happening on the schedule so that we can, as schedulers, be prepared for it. We can really aim to make sure that we don't lose any patient visits. I mean, that's the key to everything, right? That's the whole goal. And that patients understand what's happening. And in my experience, what I found is the more honest and open you are with them about what's happening, they're usually really good about, allowing that time off without going somewhere else or, that fear of we're going to lose the patient if we take time off, which is totally false if you do it right.
Okay. So you just said two things in there that are just nails on the chalkboard for me. One is scheduling one visit at a time or the PRN mindset, which is a totally different topic for another day because I could go off on that one for an hour and a half. We both
sure.
Could. But the other thing is not planning ahead. Okay, so when we were in clinic together, obviously Marisa and I have worked together for, well, I don't want to say how long, because it's been a long time, like almost a quarter of a century or something. But
yes.
Anyway, we would sit down every November and we would plan out all the days off for next year and put them in the system. So what are the days off? Well, there's Martin Luther King Day, if you take that day off. There's President's Day, if you take that day off. There's spring break, if you take that week off. There's Good Friday. You know what they are. They're on the calendar years ahead. You can look out many, many years and see when Memorial Day is going to be, for example. You can see when July 4th is going to be. So go into your schedule so that you don't inadvertently get people on those dates and then have to reschedule them. You want to try to avoid that. And so plan it out. And then what else would we do? We'd plan out 2 to 4 weeks during the year that we were going to take time off.
Absolutely.
And there was 2 weeks that were just standard. I always took off the week of 4th of July. And I always took off the week of between Christmas and New Year's.
Yeah. And we also took off a little time in August every year because we had the state fair in our town. So the whole town shuts down, basically. It's the craziest thing. So, we knew when those times were going to be. So were there other times that came up? Sure. But we tried to plan ahead enough to make sure that, you don't disrupt those patient schedules. And then there's also some scheduling rules that we need to follow around that, like you always schedule the patient prior to their scheduled appointment, if possible. Get them in before you're going to be gone. Get them in before they would have missed an appointment. Let's make sure that we're, taking care of them. And then that in turn doesn't disrupt any scheduled out visits that they may have as bad. So.
Okay, so this is always one of the things that we hear from doctors is, oh my gosh, if I take time off, my patients are going to evaporate.
Yeah.
And
I
what you said just
don't
speaks
think
against that.
Yeah, I personally don't think that that's true. If you have a good
If you do it
relationship with your
right,
patients
and
and you
if you
do
have
it
the
right,
relationship, yep.
I think that, and something you said earlier, the PRN mindset sort of creeps in with that thought process, I think. Yeah, nails on a chalkboard. I think that creeps in just a little bit to that thought process of I can't ever take time off. We were somewhere at a convention not too long ago, and we had a doc come up and tell us he has not taken a day off in 23 years. Can you even
No, it was an
imagine?
insane conversation.
No vacations, no time off. There's so many things that is detriment to your mindset if you don't re-energize yourself. And that again, that's another topic too, but
Yep.
it's so important to have a little bit of time off. And staff, it's important to know when your staff's going to be off. If we think about how your clinics run, depending on what your staff responsibilities are, that may in turn also cause some chaos in the office if you don't plan ahead for it. So really knowing when your staff's going to be gone allows you to shift, make sure patients are taken care of still, making sure that if you need to bring somebody in to help during that time that you can. There's so many things that planning ahead just opens the doors for you to then in turn get that time off that you may desperately need.
Yeah, and I want to backtrack to something you said, which truly is probably another podcast sometime. But so many doctors out there, you're thinking that you can't take time away from the practice, and there's so many things that play into that mentality. If you plan ahead, if you set your schedules up correctly, if you schedule your treatment plans correctly, if you communicate well with patients, if you create great patient relationships, and we teach doctors all these strategies to do this stuff.
Yeah.
If you do all these things and put them in place, you can take about as much time off as you want. In fact, we recommend that you take off about 4 weeks a year. Now, that might not be 4 full weeks. It might be, a couple of full weeks and some long weekends plus your standard holidays, but you need to plan ahead, because the only way you get to recharge, think about all the energy you give up every single day to your patients and your staff. You need to be able to recharge, and the only way to do that is to get away from that which pulls energy away from you.
Yeah,
You've got to get
absolutely.
away from your practice.
And you have to find things that bring the energy back to you,
Right.
And so re-energizing, taking time off, just giving your mind some peace is amazing to what you will come back and want to do. I mean, most of the time you come back and you're just gung ho. Let's get this practice going again. Let's, really dive in and make sure that we're going to meet those goals and different things like that. So it does so many things for you.
Yep. So if you plan ahead, and when you hear this podcast, just go to your staff and sit down and put all the known dates on your calendar.
Yep.
We would even go through and put our kids' soccer schedules on there,
Everything.
and everything was on there, so that you almost couldn't inadvertently schedule somebody in a spot where you were going to need to reschedule them later because you needed that time off, whether it be the last hour of the day or a whole week. You try to get as much of that built into the calendar as you can. Then if you're going to take a week off, all your patients on regular treatment plans should be coming in before you leave and coming in after you leave. And think about that. Are you losing patient visits? Is your practice going to suffer because you took time off? No, actually, your patient visits are probably going to go up a little bit.
The only scenario that I can see you losing patient visits would be in the PRN mindset. So
In the PRN mindset, because you can't
if you
forecast.
yeah, you can't forecast what's going to happen in your practice. And we talk a lot about that with our CAs and things, is really understanding the nuts and bolts behind being able to schedule properly, because that is so, so important to every practice.
Every practice. So little preparation, a little planning ahead, a little communicating with staff and your patients will allow you to take the time off that you need.
Absolutely. And we
You know what?
recommend it.
We recommend it. Yes, absolutely. And you know what? If you are interested in talking about your practice or you just want to run something past us, number one, you can always email us, especially if you got a podcast idea. We love those. And Troy Fox is the keeper of those. So it's Troy at catsconsultants.com. But go check us out at catsconsultants.com. We have, Marissa, how many different things do we have on there? They can go to the blog page. We've got some free downloads.
Absolutely. So, join our blog page, check that out. Dr. Perusich is an excellent writer and really has some good things that go out every Thursday to docs. And these aren't sales pitches, by the way. They're just tips and tools for your practice. So go check those out. Our podcasts are on there. So if you've missed one, there's some really great topics. We've also got a couple free classes. So check out our free resources page and, make sure that you're tuning in to the tips and tools that we've got for you.
And, keep this in mind too. We're doctors leading doctors. We understand not only how to develop a successful practice, but we also understand where your pain points are. So, like I said, go check us out, catsconsultants.com. And above all, stay subscribed to the podcast because we put out just some great information every single week, whether it's in the podcast or it's in the weekly articles that I write. And we've got some other new things getting ready to come out. We just like seeing doctors find success because this profession will give you so much if you put the right things into it. So, all right, everybody. Thanks for listening to the KC CHIROpulse podcast brought to you by Cats Consultants. We will see you next time.